everybody. A warm welcome to Wisdom from North. I'm Veronica, and today I'm here with Veronica Krestow. Hello, Veronica. How are you doing today?
I'm so good, and I'm so happy to be here with you and everyone watching.
I'm so excited to be speaking to you because I have been following you on Instagram, and then you contacted me. So there was some sort of synchronicity there. And I noticed your vibrant energy. I was so inspired by just the way you were approaching your audience. You have a YouTube channel as well where you give out Treasure Tuesday videos.
Yeah.
And you have a master in spiritual psychology, and you are an internationally esteemed transformational coach. And you've been writing the Diamond Process book. And there is such a presence about you. I feel like you have this childlike approach to life. I find you singing often, and we're going to speak about that in your video sometimes. You're like making sounds, and you seem such at home with yourself. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I went to your website and I read about your story.
Yeah.
And it hasn't always been like that. And that transformation, I think, is the most inspiring thing I hear about. Because to me, and I think a lot of people have felt at one time in their life that, wow, is this it? You know, I feel lost. I feel like it's always going to be like that. You know, I am what I am and I can never change. And that's why I have so many interviews about transformation, because it lifts me up. I see that it's possible. This huge shift is possible. And like you're saying, there's gold inside of us. But how do we find it?
Mm.
So I would love to start actually this interview by asking you about your journey, if you would like to share it with us.
Absolutely. And I love what you just said, that this big shift is upon us, because it absolutely is. I mean, right, it's ever going. It's always, there's always an opportunity to grow and evolve, but really the shift is so incredibly clear, not just for me and you, but for everyone watching. This pivot in our lives to really step into our full color, our full potential, and really unlock that gold inside. Yeah, as far as my personal story, oh goodness, well, I love how you said you didn't always feel like this comfort in your own self, and that's absolutely true. For most of my life, what I had learned was that if I were to be loved and accepted and, have a wonderful life, I would have to be perfect ultimately. So I, really aspired to make sure that I could create the perfect life. And that was my quest. I just looked at, how can I have the perfect body? How can I have the perfect relationship? How can I have the perfect amount of money in my bank account? How can I have the perfect community and the perfect reputation and the perfect this, everything? And what I found is that at 25, I actually managed, believe it or not, to create what looked like the perfect life on the outside. I was on the verge of marriage with an incredible man, traveling first class around the world, had the yoga body, even had the community that wasn't surface, like a really solid, powerful, authentic community from my graduate program, which was in spiritual psychology. And what I was discovering through those years is that I felt so incredibly miserable inside, even though the outside of my life was technically beautiful, or on paper was the correct and best life to live. So the quest that I ended up going on is, I was in this place of back and forth. Do I get married? Do I not? Saying yes, saying no, to proposals, being in this state of confusion, which is the ultimate drain, right? Like the final step to creating that perfect life for me was get married and have kids, right? That's the manual. And for some reason, that was where my soul just wouldn't let me keep going. And so I was in this state of confusion. Like I was terrified to sign a paper and commit to my whole future and commit. So what I discovered is that inside I was feeling all this anguish and all this depression silently. I was feeling a lot of rage and anger, and try to imagine like a 25, 26-year-old girl, like seemingly polished and on the outside, and inside I was like a monster. Like literally my thoughts were so brutal, especially towards myself. And that would also show up in my relationship where I'd have these angry fits and I didn't know why. And I'd have these bitchy moments and I didn't know why. I would be mean for no reason. And then I'd hate myself even more. Sorry for anyone watching if this feels like too much, but I think it's important to share the reality, because it's what I've learned is that a lot of us actually have this silently going on. Eventually I discovered this. But what I chose to do is, instead of, I was at that crossroads, and instead of getting married to pour more paint over myself and seem like I have the best life, I actually cut the cord and I left that relationship. That was actually in 2009. I left that relationship, and so that was years later. I left that relationship and moved to the redwood forest, where I went completely alone in solitude to face my pain, to look myself in the mirror and really face what I was ashamed of and what I didn't want anyone to see. And that was where I discovered the Diamond Process, which is the book I wrote. But it didn't come because I was like, I want to help people and write a book. What happened was I started applying the spiritual psychology tools that I had learned in graduate school. And I started, out of sheer necessity, just embracing every facet of myself, like really looking at everything I was ashamed of. So I was ashamed of being angry, of depressed, the parts of me that felt awkward or like I didn't belong. And I just, like welcoming children home, like orphaned kids, I just started collecting these fragments of myself and messily holding them and holding myself in these moments where no one had ever embraced me. No one had ever seen these sides of me. And through that process, it really was a shift, a big shift, from needing the world out there to approve of me, which is what the perfectionism was trying to get. Like that driving force behind perfectionism is typically, I want something, like I want approval, I want to be loved, I want to belong. But I became that approval refuge and that belonging refuge and that love refuge. So what happened was I shifted into what I refer to as the diamond self, which is the true original awareness, the innocence inside that's always looking, right? That's always present. And from there, it's become a lot easier to not just live my full life, but actually be visible and share myself without needing anything, right? Just being comfortable in my own skin. So that's like a kind of overview, but I will say the one thing I'd love to add is that a huge part of that transformation and that shift had to do with spending time or investing time in nature with those redwoods in the redwood forest. And that's where I discovered like a mother that I had been longing for, right? And it kind of, nature taught me how to be that for myself.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. That is amazing. So many months in the woods.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really dedication. I'm curious about the embracing of all these emotions. I'm going to this course myself every week, and a lot of things are coming up, and that's the purpose. Like we are trying to let go of a lot of things, and I think the more we, develop ourselves going on this journey, the more comes up in a way, and I see it as a gift. But still, today a lot of things came up, and I felt the need to share it with someone, to share it with a close friend, or say like, this came up for me, because it was so much to handle. But you were sitting in the woods alone, just acknowledging emotion and after emotion and things inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So did you feel that was enough? It seems like you came to that point where you just embraced it all, not having the need, like you said, to have someone else validate it for you in a way.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually, as a foundation, what I was doing was, I think I needed to get really comfortable with myself before I unveiled the whole of who I am. And so what I was doing is what I was inclined to do, it was like, it wasn't a logical thing, is there was this group of redwoods outside. So when one redwood is cut down, sometimes what happens is new life sprouts, but not just one tree. This particular, it's called a fairy ring, developed 8 trees, like a ring around it in a semicircle. And so the stump was like a seat because with all this soft moss, and I would literally sit in that seat. It felt like a throne in nature, and I would just confess, share, reveal everything that was truly on my mind. So I got really accustomed to not editing myself and just saying, I really actually hate myself today. I looked at my thighs, and this is like as honest as I could possibly get with you, because this is the kind of stuff that was coming up. I looked at my thighs, something as shallow as that, and I just hate this body. Or cancel, clear, delete all of this, because this isn't my reality today. But at that point, I just had to release all the toxicity inside of me and just be heard. And although it may seem like I was talking alone to myself in the woods, which is like the ultimate crazy, which was my biggest fear, like talking to myself, being crazy. That's the opposite of perfect in my mind, right? Back then, I actually felt a presence, and it may seem a bit esoteric, but there was absolutely a presence holding me, and this influence that was coming up through the land saying, you're safe now, like you can, and we love you, and we want you to share all of this. And so all of this started coming out, whatever it was. Some days I was very peaceful, other days I was crying, other days it was anxiety, other days I was terrified about what my next step in life was, like where was my money, like my life, like how was I going to make a living down the line, and all of these fears. And eventually what happened was I got so comfortable sharing all of this, and I actually created a process which is in the Diamond Process book called Medicinal Dialogue, which is quite honestly talking to yourself, but you basically take 2 chairs or a yoga mat and throw 2 pillows down, or you could do it in a journal, and you just talk from yourself to a part of yourself. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Gestalt therapy in psychology. And I just kept mastering the ability to speak the unspeakable, just let it all out, speak the unspeakable. I will say though, that at the end of my journey, there was a point that I needed, and this is where we all belong to each other and we're all part of this gorgeous network. And by the way, I'm not suggesting what I did is for anybody else. It's just what worked for me. But there was at some point a need to have a masterful person pull me from where I was out of that reality. So I used to be an actress, and the director in that redwood forest town called Mendocino, California, he was also a psychotherapist, and he had directed me in a play. And he had been encouraging me, like, come in my office, kid, let's talk. Like, he was this older, wise man. And I was like, I'm so evolved. Like, I'm already on my spiritual path. I'm spiritual. Like, I was in such denial, spiritual bypass. But eventually I was like, wow, I'm going to Steve Seiler. And so I showed up at his office, and he worked with me for a few months powerfully. And that was definitely what allowed me to leave those woods and start a brand new life. So yeah, I do believe that we need each other. Absolutely. And the foundation of that is being there for ourselves.
Do you think that we only heal through pain?
You know, I think pain is the most beautiful gift in disguise, because what we think we want, like what the ego wants, is one thing, but what the soul wants, like our real contract on this earth, like our real thing that we're here to create or free ourselves from, is so deep down within us in our souls that pain is the only way, oftentimes, because we're silly humans who can oftentimes be totally obsessed with material and what's on the surface of life. pain is what ejects us out of the limiting story for most of us. I don't think it like everyone has to experience it that way. There are rare examples of people who come in, you know, with just completely awake to the diamond self, or to that innocence, to that presence. But I do think pain is the greatest gift that source, the universe, the loving intelligence, God, whatever you want to call it with a capital I, gives us, to say, sweetheart, you're ready to heal and come into wholeness, but it's going to take this much pain to wake you up out of what you think you want into what you truly want.
And it seems sometimes, I've been thinking about this lately, that things come in circles, that I thought I was done with something, and then 3 years later it showed up again. And I was like, wow, I let go of this. And then I, have to deal with it again. And apparently I haven't let go of it 100%, but I thought it was good enough, but apparently not to the universe. So it's coming back. And do you experience that? Yeah.
Totally experience that. And the shamans call it a spiral instead of a circle. So it's like, it seems like we're like coming into the same spot again, and like no growth has happened. But actually we have a little more, because it's spiraling up, we have a little more awareness than we did the last time we went and hit that same trigger or whatever it is. And so it's the spiraling upward. And I feel, there's still one thing in my life, for example, that it's just, I so feel you on that, because it's so humbling. It's like, really, like this, I mean, and it's so incredibly convincing, right? It can be so painful. But what I've realized is that, for example, this has happened several times, but the thing I'm currently working with, which is a daily prayer for me, it's a daily offering over, like, this is bigger than me, like, please help me break through this. What I've realized is it's really helped me build patience and perseverance, and even more acceptance. Sometimes we just have to go through something. I don't know if it takes my whole life to heal this thing, that's okay. Am I willing to every day keep putting that step forward and courting whatever it is that I choose? Like, for me, the lesson is trust. That's where I have challenges sometimes, especially in really close relationships. Like, do I trust? I don't think I've ever shared this in an interview. It's slightly in the book, but it's, I guess I have less shame around it now that I can share this, but it's like, do I really trust that my husband, for example, is who he says he is, right? And so the little girl in me who's terrified of loving and totally opening to love and being vulnerable, keyword, is like, just has an old story perpetually playing. So I realized that it has taught me to be so incredibly humble and just like, I don't know anything. Like, I wrote a book, but I don't know a thing. Like, if I think that I'm perfect, then I'm in the same habit that I was in when I started my journey. So I love that this like distrust, believe it or not, like the light side of it is that I'm just a child. I'm just a human. I don't even know what I'm doing. But that's the beauty of it, is just like playing this game of life with total openness and never getting too comfortable with thinking I know anything, because I really don't.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I like that approach.
It's like
Because
kids, right, Yannicka? Like kids, they don't know anything. They're always asking questions. They're like, what is, like, what is that? What is this? What does it mean? They're just so curious, and they got it. Like they know how to live. They're
yeah,
so bright,
yeah. I'm just thinking about, that's a beautiful way to meet those things that are coming again and again, and patterns that you thought you were done with, and not to beat yourself up about it. It's so easy to do that. And that, I think, when you start doing that, you create a lot of resistance again. So often for me, it boils down to self-love. And when I am reminded of that, and I'm like, oh, okay, it comes again, but hey, I'm going to, we're going to walk together on this path, Janica. I'm not going to leave you.
So beautiful. Yeah, so beautiful. So I love the work you're doing. Why I'm so drawn to you and your work and your interviews is because you're really living it. Like you're really walking the path, and the integrity that you carry and the integrity in which you're truly embracing yourself is, to me, that's true leadership, right? That's an embodied leader. So thank you for
Wow.
what you choose.
Thank you for saying that. It's really important to me to try to be or to be authentic and to go this path by myself.
Yeah,
Uh, and it is a tough journey, but I love every second of it because it feels like my life is just so much richer. And even though pain is coming, I look at pain in a different way now.
yes.
Uh, Before I was trying to escape it. Now I'm like, the pain is here. I'm curious about this pain that's here. Now it's here. Now it's here. Like I'm investigating, and I have this more observant role, which makes life just richer. But I
Absolutely.
wanted to ask you. You talk about triggers, triggers as treasures.
Yeah.
How can we see triggers as treasures?
I love that question. It's funny because we literally now like train coaches in the diamond process, which is all about that. Like how do like when a client, let's say you go to a coach, right? And most coaches are like wanting to have us change our behavior and just like get over it and change your behavior and just eat well or do this and you'll be fine. But what I found in my story, like in my life story, is that the shabib comes up, like the triggers are there as treasures, because without them, we're not just meant to pour pink paint on ourselves, like Marianne Williamson says, you can't like pour pink paint over your wounds and expect to heal. We literally, the triggers are like doorbells saying, hey, someone, an orphaned part of you, or like a facet of the diamond that you are, has been lost or shattered or splintered off, and it just is calling itself back. The soul's goal is wholeness. So when triggers as treasures, how do we like look at it that way or apply it in our lives? When a trigger comes up, instead of getting lost in the person or the event that triggered us, it's usually a person that triggers an old story, an old pattern. Instead of obsessing, which is typically the habit to stay really outwardly focused, what did they think? What did they think about me when I said that? I shouldn't have said that. That was so stupid. Da, 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 da. Lost out there. Instead, I reel myself back from that event and know that that's all that is a trigger. It's a doorbell saying something inside of me is asking for love. That orphan child is like literally emerging from inside of me and saying, do you love me? Can you love me? So let's say that event triggers, okay, I went to an event, I said something that felt really stupid to someone really influential or something like that. And so I suddenly feel really awkward, which is totally common for me.
You
Really,
did for real?
I feel awkward a lot of the time. Like,
Oh,
so the awkward facet is something I've integrated on my journey. And now it feels like a wonderful thing, because I really like when someone has their quirks and it makes me feel comfortable with them, like when someone's awkward. But for a long time, I was hitting this wall with saying something awkward and how many times I'd beat myself up over it. So I'm using it as an example. And so what I would do is then, the way we can do this, just an example, is then come home to ourselves. So the trigger is like a doorbell, that's all it is. And the treasure is inside. It's always inside. It's always inside. Like typically like what we're trying to do is get someone out there to make us feel better, but it doesn't work because we haven't mastered the ability to be sovereign and be whole. So the soul's goal is wholeness. It just wants our whole self intact. And so what I do is I sit in my meditation space. I ask myself two questions. What did that person make me feel? Not that they made me feel, but what did I feel in response to that trigger? Just awkward. Okay, why does that matter? So, well, because I just feel like if I go really deep with that, it would be like I feel worthless, like I don't matter in this world, like I don't belong in this world. I'm an outsider. It hurts. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. I'm alone. And that's kind of the baseline of all of our stories, is not like feeling like there's something wrong with us. It's just like the code or the program that's unconsciously in humanity. So then my next question is, okay, what do I feel in my body right now? So it's really 3 questions. What did I feel? Like, what, you can do it in 2 questions. Okay, what do I feel right now? Oh, I feel like worthless, but I want to make sure I get a feeling tone. Okay, I feel anxious. I feel afraid. Okay, where do I feel? It may make no sense. Why do I feel afraid from a conversation? It's not logical, but I feel, where do I feel that feeling in my body? So I name it and I locate it. I name it. I feel anxious. Whew, okay, where do I feel the anxiety in my body? And then I find that in my body. Whew, okay, I kind of feel it in my throat, in my heart. Yeah, it's all in this area. Okay. And that's when I just literally place my hands wherever I feel that. The body relaxes when there is physical touch. We're mammals. So the nervous system, the cortisol levels drop when we physically touch our body because that warmth says you're safe, you're okay. Oftentimes when we're lost in thought and we're just lost in thinking and obsessing, which is what our culture mostly does, obsess about thinking and what others think of us, comparing all of that, we're literally starving the body of peace and sustenance. So the body, just like any creature, needs attention. But if we're up here, the body's like, is anyone there? Like terrified. So anxiety is often as simple as getting masterful at dropping into our bodies and being with our bodies. So then I just sit with it, breathe into it, let whatever emotion wants to come out. Key word is free of judgment. Notice the judgments that come up, like there's something wrong with me, I must be crazy, why is this happening to me, this is terrible. Just notice that, let it go. Stay with a feeling. All it is neutral energy, just typically from the past wanting to come out. And that trigger was the blessing that came in and unlocked that feeling so that repressed emotion could just be released. But the way us humans typically re-swallow that energy back into our bodies is we tell a story about it and we believe that story. So it's just getting masterful at what do I feel? Where do I feel it? So name it, locate it, and just breathe into it and drop the commentary. Like let the commentary go and stay with yourself like you would a child. Love that kid that's afraid. And then move forward.
Wow. Thank you for explaining that so thoroughly. Like there was so many things there, and I was thinking, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. I want to comment on the body. I had a long time that I didn't recognize the body's intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah. Like you were saying that the body's like, oh, you're just up in your head. I'm here. Like I need attention. Like I haven't thought about that. My body needs attention, like comfort from me, because I'm in my head. But it makes sense. If the body has intelligence, it needs to be like recognized and touched. And,
Yes.
I love that.
Absolutely. Like little body rituals are so like coming out of the shower and putting coconut oil on or something, but really saying thank you to your hand, like taking that mindful moment, really powerful. Yeah.
And then like those triggers, they're invitations, they're like gifts, because then we get the opportunity when we do something about it, like sit down, like you're saying, and releasing it, or doing it, on the street if we're able to, like do a quick one, because there are triggers all the time. In my school, we have something that's called matches. If I feel, you're talking about something and I'm matching it, I recognize that. And then that's a kind of a release just there. Just, I have the same.
Beautiful.
And yeah.
Well, just like imagine if a kid was knocking on the door like like a scared kid from school, right? And like the only way you know that the kid's at the door is because he rang the doorbell or she rang the doorbell. That's what the triggers do for us, right? They're like incredible gifts. And imagine if we all wake up to that and use them rather than get crushed by them, like how much magnificence is freed, and that gold inside of us is freed because we're no longer hiding or anxious or afraid. We're now empowered from inside and we're whole.
Yeah, it makes the whole difference.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking I shouldn't feel like that, and instead going into victimhood, or trying to, keep up this appearance in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
we could talk about it more freely and openly, and I definitely feel like we are emotional beings, and if we would be more comfortable showing emotions and talking about it, it would free up so much energy.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful, like the emotions, and I'm highly sensitive, and it's so rich, like, it's so rich to
Yeah,
feel and to witness others in their vulnerability, that we're all just, as Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home. uh,
yeah, beautiful.
yeah.
So would you say that when you meet these triggers every day and you let go of more and more,
Yeah.
is that the way into the golden diamond self?
Mm. Yeah, well, the diamond self to me is like that redwood tree, right? It's like the one that embraces all, it's unconditional. So to me, the diamond self is this vast, you can think of it as Kuan Yin. We have Kuan Yin here, like the divine mother, or just a grandmother, some loving presence that says, sweetheart, it's okay, and just embraces whatever is present. So what I found is, as the pain was coming up, and anytime pain comes up, it just strengthens the diamond self. It strengthens that place within me that is unconditionally and radically self-accepting. So all of those times it just helps to give the diamond self an opportunity to give, to hold, to love, to embrace. And if you want to get like a bit esoteric with it, like even deeper in the diamond is the letters I am. So even beyond that mothering presence, there's just awareness. Like you were saying, you bring that awareness, which is so beautiful, which is just powerful, to whatever's coming up. And it's just awareness. Like there's literally no judgment, no story, no thought. It's just like,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. Wow, look at that. Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Just
So
neutrality.
easy in a way, so simple, just awareness, and a
Yeah.
lot of stuff happens. Like, I'm amazed by that awareness and intention. Intention is magical too. Setting
Yes.
intention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it literally creates this cooperative energy that just comes in and like meets you, right? When we set these intentions, like plugging into our navigation systems in the car, I want to go to this address, and then like, but we have to set the intention. Yeah.
Right. And that is linked with awareness again, because you have to be aware that I want to, what is my intention?
Yes. Yeah.
What do I want
Absolutely.
with this? Where do I want to go in life? What are my dreams? What do I want to say to the universe? So you have to be conscious.
That's actually a great question for everyone watching. It's like, what do you want to create? Like if you could wave a magic wand and create anything, and there was like no logic involved, like what is that? Because kids are always dreaming. Like they don't have a limit on that yet, right? So like my teachers would say, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Like what now do you want to create? What is your intention? And just after this interview, to even take some time and write that down, like let yourself imagine. I think I'm going to go do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so beautiful, because I believe everything is possible. I truly do, because I am a big, I love watching videos about quantum physics. And I think on the core level, everything is energy, and everything is, well, when we observe something, it
Yeah.
changes, right? It is influenced. So I think anything is possible. It's just that we, on a deep level, don't think that we can actually have such an influence on
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to ask you a bit about the singing part, because you had a video about your finding your authentic voice, and I have never heard anybody speak about that. You should make some tones. And I love that, because I'm a singer. I was like, wow, yeah, she's onto something here.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what's really neat is like, the best part about living in the redwoods for that year and a half was that Ooh, there was no one around. I was in solitude. I wasn't living in the trees. Like I was living in a very remote in solitude in the forest, but I was in a house. I was in a home. And I could just see, I mean, this was part of the liberation is I was untethered. Like I just, blah, like anything, anything that wanted to come out would come out. And what I found was that these sounds started moving through me that would literally break up all that mental energy. And my body would just start buzzing. Like it was so really powerful tool that I didn't realize I was doing then, but in hindsight, I realized it is, you know, the 2 steps we talked about earlier, which is like when you feel triggered, what do you feel? And then what do you feel in your body? You could add a 3rd step, which is to make sound from once you locate it. So I had located anxiety in my heart and throat. Once you locate it, then it's like, what is that feeling? Like feel into it, breathe into it, and what sound does it want to make? And it was sometimes it was like, ooh, yeah, like all of these weird sounds. And I just had to practice not judging. But as I let it come out, it was almost like coughing up the gunk first. And then beneath it was, I mean, like, I don't even have words for it, but like angelic, like gorgeous, just high frequency that would literally like shake off any limitations and just upgrade my body. I don't know if there's a science behind this. It just is something I experienced. So it's highly encouraged because our culture teaches us to hush it and edit and don't say that, or you shouldn't do that. You know, all of the programs to give ourselves permission in our cars, or if nobody's home, into our pillows to just like, like roar. I'd go off on Mendocino Coast because it was so loud with the crashing waves. It was that Pacific Ocean is just intense, unapologetic. And I would match it, just like you were saying, and I would literally stand on the cliff and be like, if I was feeling rage, which I was so ashamed of, or anger, which I've learned are powerful vertical emotions that get us out of depression, get us into action, and get us energized if they're used constructively. I started letting that out with sound on the coastline, and I'd be like, and just let this primal energy come out, and then I'd be like, it felt so good. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, there aren't that many places where you can scream. Like I live in an apartment and people would think I'm crazy, but sometimes I'm like, can't get it out. Where am I gonna go?
Truly, like a pillow, cover yourself with another pillow, and just they will not hear it, and just like, but a car is a great place too. Driving. Yeah.
I interviewed one doctor here in Norway. He sees things. He had a near-death experience. After that, he started seeing things, and he saw like this choir once, and 3 of them had a beautiful voice. They were singing solo together. And all of a sudden he saw the tones, like light shooting out up in the stars, dancing in the sky. And I was totally picturing that in my mind. And I was thinking, yes, of course, you know, sound is healing. Sound is a vibration, and it affects us. It affects the whole body. And I can feel that too when I'm listening to music or when I'm singing myself. And this is actually scientists are saying that when you are singing, you get in a better mood. Something happens with the, I don't know, the chemical inside your body, but I can feel it. Like I can feel that I get so much lighter just by practicing singing for 15 minutes. I raise my frequency basically. Yeah.
Totally. Such a powerful way. I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone, but on my phone, on my voice memos, I have like at least 100 songs where I don't know what's coming out of my mouth, but as I'm driving, I just start singing lyrics and I don't even know where they're coming from or if they make sense. Sometimes there's like a gem in there, but it really does. It lifts the frequency. I definitely feel it in my body just singing. It's kind of like that medicinal dialogue, but with less pressure or logic to have to heal this. I'm going to release this. And instead it's like, you know, I'm feeling, and just letting that feeling come through. And it's like, who is that? Like, it doesn't even sound like me. But I think I think music comes from the soul, and oftentimes speaking comes, we've been trained to think our way through life. So singing is like a direct way to unlock the soul. And I love it. I want to hear you sing.
I just heard that you must be a singer too, right? I mean, that tone was just like, wow.
Honestly, I discovered a singer deep inside from all those times in Mendocino, and now I just sing. It's a secret thing of mine. I do it at the harmonium, and yeah, as a part of my morning practice. But I think we're all singers.
I was just going to ask you that, talking about finding our authentic voice, if you feel like, I can't sing.
Yeah.
But yeah, can we all sing or can you give some more advice to how to find your authentic voice?
Yeah, well, something I learned from Edwin Coppard, I did a powerful retreat with him, and it's about unlocking your wild voice, is what he calls it. But what he taught us is to tap into the field, tap into this infinite field, let it into your body, and just let sound come out. And that idea that I can't sing, or I don't know how to sing, other people can sing, it's singing anyway. It's like, don't worry about how it sounds, like if anyone's watching and like, I'm one of those people, I can't sing. Don't let that stop you. It's just because beneath that, it's like, because of that idea, we've never gone beneath the limited voice and into the field where we're just infinite. We have an infinite instrument. I mean, all cultures, if you step out of the US and more Western cultures, you see they all have a culture that surrounds itself with singing, and not one person in that tribe or culture is going to say, I can't sing. That would be like saying I can't breathe. So
will that help you like find your authentic voice, like in general, like that you will dare to speak up more because you actually gotten in touch with your physical voice in a way, or not physical?
I think absolutely. Like on one hand, energetically, the throat chakra is opening. So no matter what, there's an exercising of like clearing the cobwebs in here and just like letting some crazy sound out, or weird sound, or even whatever it is that wants to come out. So it's cleaning things up energetically, but also on an emotional and mental level, when we can really accept our voices, and rather than trying to be perfect, which I learned the hard way, is like the total limit to living our full blast life. If we just let go of it having to sound good and step into, yeah, this is me too. Like part of the diamond process is, yeah, I'm awkward and I am a terrible singer, and I'm also very poised and a great singer. Like, can we be all of it? Does it have to be one or the other? And then that creates more confidence so that we can share authentically, because we're no longer editing ourselves like, yeah, I'm just this. Which is a lie. So then we want to hide because, oh God, what if someone finds out that I'm really insecure, or I'm really awkward sometimes, or like, oh God, if I hide, no one will ever know that. So part of it is just on the mental level, owning I'm a mess and I'm magnificent and I'm all of it. And then no one can rob us of our authentic expression because we're comfortable with our authenticity.
Right. That's the key. And I think when we're comfortable with ourselves, somehow it changes others' impression of you too. Like when you're confident, like we see confident people, we're like, oh yeah, I bet he can do it because he's so confident about it. It's like he can fool me.
The irony of confidence, like I made a video on this on YouTube. It's the irony of confidence is when we own the part of us that's totally insecure, that's where confidence can truly happen from the root. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's great.
That our insecurity. Yeah.
Yeah, because insecurities, I feel like it's a shame-based thing. Being
Totally.
insecure. Yeah. And when teenagers, I think a lot of us have the teenager inside, right? That insecure teenager that's still
lunch
there.
table moments. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that teenager needs our love, like just like being that one that welcomes him or her back, like opening the door, letting those triggers, like instead of, letting that teenager come back. That's part of us too. Yeah.
So this has been wonderful, Veronica. Can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about your work now, what you're working on now, and share a bit more about the diamond process, if that is what you're working on now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's right now we're actually training coaches in the diamond process work, because honestly, when I say we, I mean my husband and I. He was on the shamanic path for a long time and teaching guiding yoga and shamanic practices. And then we joined forces because we realized, oh my God, a lot of the shamanic practices are very similar to the diamond process and spiritual psychology. So and yoga, actually the inner yoga, and we've weaved it all together into this powerful 6-month certification program. And the reason we're so passionate about this is because coaches out there are trying, it's like a lot of the coaching work out there doesn't work. It'll work for a period of time, but not for an everlasting transformation, because we're trying to address things simply on a behavioral level, like just change your habits. But if we don't get to the root and we don't go into self-mastery, which is what we do with our coaches, is we all go through this transformational self-mastery process for the first 7 weeks. And then we learn the coaching skills, and we get on YouTube and we learn to express our messages and how to communicate and build our audiences, and then go out there and practice with clients and get feedback. It's like together we rise. And so we're just seeing this network of coaches. Our coaches are out there doing incredible things now. I can't even freaking believe it, Yannicka. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm sharing this. Yeah, this is the work I'm doing. But for anyone watching, like the most challenging moment of your life where you're on your hands and knees is where that potential is. Like I could never, ever, ever see myself doing what I'm doing today. Like,
I love you
I
saying that.
oh, there's no way. I mean, I literally, if someone looked at me the wrong way, I'd be like, ah! Like I was so pushed by life. And honestly, it's when we can master our own triggers and master our own mindset, we become unstoppable. And it like brings tears to my eyes, because it's that gold that's inside. It's why we are here. We each have a unique gift. So when we take care of ourselves and get our emotions and our mind handled in the most constructive way, we literally serve our humanity. We do what we're here to do. We lead with love. So yeah, that's what we're focused on. Our next training, we have actually 9 spots right now. We're in the process of finishing enrollment, but we are starting on May 19th for this year's coach training program. And other than that, just sharing the videos and the book and working with private clients and things like that. So, these collaborations I so appreciate, because I feel like, yeah, this is the diamond process, but there's also wisdom from North, and there's Edwin Coppard's, voice class I was mentioning, and there's, the schools that I went to, and there are the teachers and we're all cleaning up our side of the street, and together, like all of us are needed.
We are, and it's so important that you're saying that, because many years ago I thought, is it that school I'm taking? Is it that school? Do I agree with this or her or this or that? And
Yeah,
now I'm like, well, now I feel like, watching Veronica. Now I feel like watching him or her.
yeah,
It's what I need in the moment. It's what inspiration I need there and then. And you
yeah,
all have different approaches, but I feel like, it's the same truth underneath.
yeah,
It's a red thread here, but
yeah,
sometimes we need to get a different perspective and a different angle, and maybe
totally.
we are ready for something more, like going deeper. So we
Yeah,
definitely need all the teachers out there, because
yeah.
we can not have enough of empowerment. That's, I feel like, what we need in the world, to
So
empower.
if any of you are watching out there and you're like, yeah, I have a dream of like sharing my message, or, being a coach or being an artist or whatever it is. But other people are already doing that. Like, please take in what Yannicka is saying right now, because I might have the exact message as you or somebody else, but we each have our own unique blueprint. So someone's going to be totally turned off by me because of a human thing. Like, it's just, you can't explain it. It's a resonance. It's either there or it's not. And that same person is going to hear what you're sharing. It might be really similar. and they are going to get the medicine they're here to get from you. So if anyone watching thinks, oh, but it's already being done, it's not being done through you. So
Right.
there are people who are waiting for you. So just keep that in mind. The value within you is unshakable and undeniable. So are you open to owning it and sharing that gold inside of you?
Yes, and we can't wait for you to do so. Wow. Yay! I love this, Veronica. Thank you so much.
Me
We had some
too.
technical issues this week with this interview, but we
Yeah.
managed to do it. I'm so grateful.
Yes.
And good luck with your education, your coaching education,
Mm,
and all
thank
the
you.
best to your husband. Say hello to him from
Thank you.
and
Yeah, and by the way, if anyone is like, oh, interested, they can go to diamondprocesscoach.com and find out, because yeah, it's synchronistic that we're doing this interview and it's around the corner. So
yeah.
thank
Thank you
you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you for everything you do, and just huge embrace, Yannicka. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing the gold that's in you and inspiring me and everybody.
Thank you also. And thank you so much for watching, everybody. And remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't before. Much light from Norway and the US. Bye bye.